The weekly Industry Angel podcast hears from business leaders and entrepreneurs who share their stories and that all-important light bulb moment. This can inspire us all and maybe scratch that itch and kickstart that idea that keeps you awake at night. Welcome to episode 12 of the Industry Angel. It was fantastic to see us hitting number 1 in iTunes this week in the new and noteworthy section. Well done. The stats were as interesting as ever. It's nice to see new members in the LinkedIn group. We've got Stephen Woodruff, Ilse have just joined. We've got Barrow Football Club's biggest fan, Dave Ingham. Dave's going to listen back from episode 1. Let me know your thoughts there, Dave. And actually, I'd love to hear from you all regarding the challenges you're facing right now within business. Drop me a message, industryangel.com contact page. You'll find my email address. Drop me a message. Let's look at those challenges and maybe we can get a guest in to discuss them going forward. Right, off we go. Let's get on with it. Today we have a local lass joining us. I hope our overseas listeners won't need a translator for us. Although I know we have a good expat following, so I hope you enjoy this little piece of home. From Red Handbag, please welcome Sharon MacArthur.
Hello, Ian. How are you?
I'm top of the pops. Hello, it's stotting down outside.
Yes, it is.
Now we've started being Geordie already. So.
We'll try and curb our Geordiness, I promise.
We shall try. Queen's English. Right. I'm going to start by reading a couple of snippets out from your website, okay. Sharon. Is that okay?
That's fine.
We'll set the scene. Most people don't leave great companies, they leave poor managers. Make sure you have the confidence to be a great leader and get the best out of your people. So from that, Sharon, I take it you're a coach, yeah?
I am. I call myself a leadership confidence coach. So does that mean anything to you? Because the problem that I have, I think a lot of people that I'm coming across, certainly in business at the moment, every other person seems to be a coach. Okay. And I think that word, it's kind of a nothing word. It doesn't really mean anything. And I think it conjures up lots of different things to lots of different people. But what I mean about being a coach is finding out other people's reality to find out where they're stuck so I can work with them to help them help themselves, I guess.
Right. Well, this follows on nicely, Sharon, because the last couple of episodes we've talked about coaching and empowerment, that sort of thing. And the last couple of angels told us how they ended up founding their organizations and escaping a role that really wasn't fulfilling them. Mm-hmm. It might have been a really good role. There might have been a nice salary attached, but, it wasn't fulfilling them as a person. So maybe you could do likewise and begin at how you got your light bulb moment and how you started Red Handbag and, where the thoughts came from.
Well, I'll give you a little journey about my life. So I'm nearly 48 years old. And I didn't set up my business till I was 46, so I'm pretty late to the game of setting up on my own in business, certainly. And I'm a bit like the reluctant businesswoman, to be honest. I never really had a dream or an ambition. So some people you meet and they're like, I've got this plan and in 10 years I'm going to be doing this, that and the other. But I left school at 16 because I wanted to shave all my hair off and have a Mohican. So that was my motivator for leaving school. My mum wasn't very happy about it, but I thought, well, if I get a job as a hairdresser, she won't be able to stop me. So that was my first victory, shall I say. So I left school. I was meant to go to sixth form, but I used to get hassled from the teachers because of the way I looked. This was the early 80s, I might add. So
is this with your Mohican, by the way?
Well, yeah, I kind of shaved all my hair off and had red and white hair extensions put in. I looked pretty crazy, to be fair. So I spent that year working as a hairdresser and it didn't really work out for me. I won't go into detail, but it didn't work out. So I kind of didn't ever have a what I'm going to do plan. I just always knew I needed a work plan. So I went from various job to job till in the end, about it's coming up 16 years ago, I ended up in a big corporate organisation. But previous to that, I'd forayed into management and leadership because I used to work in advertising sales. So I've always worked in sales departments and sales areas. And as I describe it to people now, I haven't seen The Wolf of Wall Street. It was a bit like the poor man's Wolf of Wall Street. We used to do crazy things. So on a Geordie shoestring. So we used to do things like drink beer in the office and pretend it was just ordinary water and do daft drinking games and just had a pretty wild time. And at that point, I was in my early 20s, and I was getting a really good salary, lived at home with my parents, and just really went crazy and didn't save, and really wasn't an adult, just went a bit wild. So now I reached the age of 31 and I'm coming into a bigger organisation. I start in that organisation as a coach, funnily enough. But because I'd been a leader previously, a manager, I was quickly promoted into that role. And then about 3 years later, I was promoted into a senior management role, a senior leadership role. And I have to say, I loved that organisation. I was with them 14 years. But when I look back over it, I had about 10 bosses in 11 years. So I had quite a lot of new bosses. And what's interesting about having a new boss is one day you can have the boss you've got and the boss thinks you're great. And then you can have a new boss comes in and you're not really doing anything different, but that boss doesn't maybe think you're so great. And that's hard going, that's hard to cope with. So a situation arose about 3 years ago when through redundancy situation, I decided I was kind of knackered. Good Geordie word there. I was really tired, and I just thought I don't think I can do this anymore. There was a lot of politics. There was a lot of people wanting to get on and do things, which I didn't feel fitted who I was anymore in terms of my values and who I am as a person. So at that point, I decided I told my other half, I said, right, I'm going to take a year off. So by this point, I've worked all the way from the age of 16 right the way through to the age of I was 45 at this point. And I have to say, I was bloody knackered. I'd never been off the hamster wheel. I did go to university at the age of 41 and I got a postgraduate in coaching, which always amuses me greatly because I didn't even have a degree, but now I've got a postgraduate certificate.
Well done.
So I did that, but I'd never actually stopped and had any time off for me at all. So him indoors wasn't very happy. He was like, yeah, that sounds like a bit of a plan, but what, a whole year off? And to be honest, Ian, I just took the time because people have said, what did you do in that year? You know, I think people often think if you're going to do that, you're going to have, you're going to travel the world, you're going to have grand plans. And I just started to learn the art of doing nothing much. Right. Appreciating, I don't know about you, but when you're doing something, you're always doing. You're going to work, you're cleaning the house, you're going somewhere, you're going to a family do, you're going for a night out, you're doing this, that, and the other for every other person. And I felt at that point I didn't really spend time in my own space, in my own house. So I didn't even feel like I lived in my own house, so to speak, because I was always dashing here and there and everywhere and travelling all over the shop. So I thought I would take the opportunity to appreciate the little things, I guess. So it was a fabulous summer that summer. So I ended up going up where we live. It's fabulous up the Northumberland coast. I'd go up to, the fabulous beaches we have in Northumberland. I'd visit castles. I became a bit of a tourist in my own city. I got work done in the house and I literally just began to unwind and figure out who is Sharon and what's it all about. So a few people I've spoken to when I say this, because at this point I was thinking, well, in 15 years' time, I'm 60 years old. Now, first of all, I don't know how that happened. How did I get to be so old? Because I thought I'd be dead by now. So when you're in your early 20s, you think people in their 40s, well, they're really old. Of course they are. But when you reach that age, you think, well, I'm not that old, I'm quite young. But scarily, when you look at the bit of paper, it tells me in 15 years' time, I'm going to be 60. So I also started to think about, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my working career? What is it that I want for me? What does Sharon want for Sharon? And at this point, I wasn't really clear. But what I did know, what was becoming louder and louder and louder to me, was my whole value about making a difference. So I must admit, I did dabble. I did go for a few interviews. And the big thing for me was always about culture. So what was the culture going to be like? Was I going to like working for this other company who were going to pay my salary? Was I going to fit in? Because I felt by this point, I didn't want to be anybody else but than the real me. So I didn't want to have to compromise and look a certain way or be a certain way. And I know that might sound ridiculous, but I just thought, I'm too bloody old.
To be honest, that does not sound ridiculous at all. We've had a bit of a theme here about, being you.
Yeah, totally.
Just being you. And to be honest, you've had 30 years of graft there. And I don't know, in those years, I mean, were you? You know, you talked about there different managers coming in, and sometimes a manager really took to you and you got on really well. Other times a manager might have been sprung upon you and didn't think you were all that.
Yeah.
Did you have to cheat? Were you all that time,
I
or?
think latterly I was much more me, much more the me that I wanted to be, but absolutely not. I didn't know who me was when I was in my early 30s. I didn't have a clue. I was trying to be all things to all people, which again makes you miserable when you look back and can reflect.
Sure.
So now, so I took the opportunity, like I say, to sort of unwind, get off that hamster wheel and just learn to be quiet as well, to just not have to be doing something all of the time, to just sit still and not be a doer all of the time, which was pretty much of a revelation when all you do is do, if that makes sense.
Totally does, yeah.
So,
Even in the shower, I'm still thinking about things,
well,
and you kind
yeah,
of go to bed, you stare at the ceiling. I know.
totally. It's that whole art of being able to just, I guess the in term now is being mindful, but just do nothing, be a bit bored, switch things off, read a book, do some gardening, just be silent, just be quiet in yourself.
If you met my wife, do you think I'm going to get away with sitting down, being mindful, and doing
Well,
nothing?
I know, but I'm even talking about, half an hour.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
I
yeah.
work with clients, I'm talking especially to women in business. And when I was doing a talk not that long ago to a room of 30 women, and the
Okay.
question I asked them was, "What have you done for you in the last week? Just for you, not for your kids, not for your husband, not for anybody else. Just for you in the last half an hour for you." And honestly, you would have thought I'd thrown a grenade in the room. The
Right.
room just the energy went from the room because no woman in that room had thought about themselves for half an hour. So it's really fascinating to me with what I do, which I'll come on to later. But yeah, in terms of me, I just wanted to unwind. So I went for these roles. And I guess because I'm older and wiser now, I knew about this because I used to do a lot of recruitment in my senior role. But I realised now, the age that I wanted to interview them as much as they wanted to interview me. So I was asking them some real tough questions about, specifically about culture. What's it going to be like for me to work around here? And I was just literally getting blank faces for these few interviews that I went to, and I just thought, you know what, I just couldn't work there based on their reaction to my questions. So I was thinking, what is it that I want to do with the rest of my life? What do I love? So I was a bit like Miss World at this point. I felt like I loved animals. I love children. So I thought I could do any of that. It felt like the world was actually my oyster. So I went down the route of getting to an interview to be a veterinary nurse. Much to the surprise of lots of my friends and family, which obviously didn't happen. And I also pursued, which feels or seems more bizarre to the people who know me, I said I wanted to become a funeral arranger.
Mm.
So people were a bit like, what on earth do you want to do that for? That's completely bonkers. But in my mind, okay, so here was out making a difference to help, because I wanted to deal with the living, I might add. I didn't want to deal with the dead. I wanted to deal with
Right.
friends and family left behind. And I thought, having my value set, it would be an honour and a privilege to help a family and friends, help their loved one, leave this mortal coil in the way that they wanted to. And I felt that I was equipped to do that. But again, won't go into the detail of it. It didn't work out. So all of the time, I'm still not working. I'm still not earning. My other half's now starting. It's coming up to the Christmas. I've been off for about 6 months now, and he's starting to say, what are you going to do? And I was like, no, I've got it covered. It's fine. And anyway, to be fair, I was fibbing a bit. I didn't really have it covered. I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I had bought myself a red handbag, funnily enough, for Christmas in this sale, a quite expensive one. Obviously, I didn't tell him indoors. I just bought it because I've got a bit of a thing for handbags anyway. And a few things happened. It was a bit like fate. So I was in a local shop, local to me, and I was happened to be packing this red handbag. And a young girl, out the blue on the tail, kind of said, and this is my best Geordie voice, so I hope everyone can understand me. I love your red handbag. I think it's amazing. And I thought, oh, well, I'll take the compliment. That's very kind. That's lovely. And then she went on to tell me this story about how it was just after Christmas, and her dad had just bought a gorgeous cream handbag, but she would never use it. She just didn't have the confidence to use this handbag. So I guess in the spirit of what I do and what I'd been doing for years anyway, is in terms of a coaching conversation, I just said to her, look, why don't you get the bloody handbag out the cupboard? I said, stand on it and make a mark. So the thing that you're most bothered about has already happened. And then you don't have to worry about it happening because you've made it happen in a controlled circumstance. So then you can just use the handbag, can't you? And so she was like, oh, I can't believe it. That's what I can do. So that was just this little incident that had happened. At this point, I still didn't know I was going to set up in business. And then I have a really close friend and somebody who was an acquaintance who I met who actually used to work for me. And they both said independently, Sharon, I cannot believe that you've got all this expertise, all of this practical, no-nonsense approach to how you lead and manage people. Because I've been doing it now for coming up to 25 years by this point. I can't believe why you don't do it for yourself, why you don't set up your own business. And I was a bit, me, how could I do that? That's not what I hadn't even thought about it. It hadn't entered my head. So the red handbag thing kept coming up. So I guess the rest is history. A friend contacted me and said, Sharon, why don't you do some, I want to offer you some work because I know you're now set up on your own, which was a gift really. But me being me, I just said, look, because being fair and reasonable and honest, some more of my values. And I just said, look, I'm going to come down. It was working away, and I'm going to do this day. I'm going to do it free, gratis. I'm going to do it free because I want to see, is this what I really want to do? Do I like doing it? Am I good at it? And actually, would you pay me good money to do it?
And was that sales focused, Sharon? I know that was your background. You said you worked in sales a lot. Was this coaching?
It wasn't really. It was more to do with the whole leadership stuff.
Okay.
So I'm not really a sales coach, although when I'm working with small and micro businesses, I do have that expertise to bring to the party if people are stuck and don't have the confidence to sell. I do have that. But I would say, as I said earlier, I'm much more of a leadership confidence coach. So it's about demystifying, because when you're a manager, and whether you're a new manager or whether you've been doing it for a while, there's just not a rule book of what to do when you're in charge of people. So what you tend to find is if you're pretty good at your job, often your boss might encourage you to go for a manager's job and be promoted. But what you often find in companies, unless you come externally, internally there's not a lot of investment goes on. So you can often find yourself, and it happened to me a couple of times in my career, 1 minute I'd be sitting in this seat, and then the next day I'd been promoted and I was sitting in the same office but at a different desk and expected to be doing enormously different things. Yeah. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So often I think there's two camps that I see as bad managers or poor leaders. It's those who should never have been appointed in the first place. And most people I meet have a story about a really bad manager who's nearly sent them over the edge. Because when you're a manager, you have loads of power. And you've got to be able, I talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, you haven't got to be Darth Vader here. You've got to be able to use your power well. And I think there's too many Darth Vaders knocking about out there in leadership roles.
On the dark side, yeah.
They've turned to the dark side, and for whatever reason, that's the side that they want to be in. And then I think there's that other camp of leaders, and they're the ones that I want to get involved with, who've just been plucked from one role to another, who've got the best of intentions, they really want to make a difference, but they sometimes don't even know how or where to start because they just haven't had that investment. And if you're going to grow a business, if you're going to have any kind of business, and unless you just have it totally automated and with robots, you employ people. And people need to be able to connect with each other to be able to get the best out of a business. And that's leadership, really. And if you can't do that and you don't invest in your leaders to actually be the best that they can be, then actually you're damaging your business because you're not going to be as profitable. You're not, you're going to have churn, you're going to have people leave, you're going to have people go off sick. And it's really all about that connection with people. And that's why I do what I do. I'm very practical in my approach. So people talk to me about models, and I'm a bit like model schmodels. Of course, I know leadership models. I've got books full. I've had some great investment and training in my career. But when in the moment when you're stuck, you don't think of a model. You think practically, what do I need to be able to help this person or get out of this situation? Because most leaders, when they're stuck, it actually starts with you in that you're pretty terrified to do something. So you imagine these situations, don't you, where I'm always fascinated about people who do training. So no disrespect to anyone who trains on how to have a difficult conversation. But my take on it is, why are you calling it a difficult conversation? Number one, like, why are you even badging it up as a difficult conversation? Why can't it just be a conversation? Because the only reason that it gets tagged as a difficult conversation is when it comes from my perspective. Because if I think it's going to be difficult, I'm probably not going to do it, or I'm going to be worried about it, and I might not just go into it in the way that I need to. But if I just think of it as a conversation where I'm going to find out some facts from another person and then I'm going to make a decision, then it's just a conversation and finding out somebody else's truth or their reality. And then I can hear what they've got to say. I can use the facts that I already had before I went in that conversation, and I can just sort it out.
Can I take you back, Sharon, to the dark side? Okay,
Please, you have to.
Well, there is. I'm a bit of a Star Wars freak, so can I say rebels and Imperials, right? Okay, you've got a rebel, right? You've got the dark side. Can you get them over to become a Jedi? You know, can you coach them into being a good manager? Is it in you? Is it a personality thing? What, you know?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm going to go back to the Wolf of Wall Street here. So I think, and again, I don't know this for certain, but I would say if you worked in that organisation as part of the film of Wolf of Wall Street, you'd probably have on the wall a set of values which would say lie, steal, cheat, do whatever you can to make loads of money.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely fine, because what was congruent about that whole thing was the people that worked there, that's what they did as well. That's what they wanted. They wanted to lie, steal, cheat, do whatever at any cost. So somebody like me, and I'm guessing you, Ian, if we walked into that business and that's what we were surrounded by, if my values are, make a difference, honesty, trust, respect,
sure,
I'm going to freak out in that business. So I'm either going to have to become mega unhappy by molding myself into this thing just to fit in, or I've got a choice to actually know me really well and either not to choose to go there in the first place, or the first sniff of it being totally so far removed from me that I leave.
So thinking about those bad managers, can you make them a good manager when it comes to people and leadership?
To me, I think you've got to have a certain set of values. So for me, if you're pretty egotistical, for example, there's nothing wrong with that. But the question I would ask is, what's good, or what's good about you being a leader? How are you going to help people to develop and do what you need them to do if it's all about you? So I worked with a guy many, many years ago, and he had this bee in his bonnet that he wanted to be a manager. And often what you'll find, Ian, is in an organisation, the next logical step is for promotion to get more money is to become a manager.
Yeah.
Now that is not necessarily the right thing for all people. So this guy, he was a brilliant networker. He was excellent with everything that he did, but he just couldn't connect with people to get them to do what he needed them to do. So in terms of his role, I would sit down. He actually worked for me at the time, and I sat him down very honestly several times and said, I thought the role for him was being a consultant, working for himself, going out into the field, connecting with customers, because he was great with customers. But when it came to his peers, for some reason, he just had the brilliant knack of rubbing them up the totally wrong way. Point where I would have to go in and have to almost become a referee, with some of the people that he was working with, because he would just, I don't know if it was savage amusement, or he just, I think it was savage amusement. Now I'm reflecting on it, I think that's what it was, because he knew what right and wrong was, but for whatever reason, he got a thrill out of, sending people into carnage, really, leave a wave of devastation wherever he went internally. And I found out, not that long ago, that this person's gone and done that. Now, I think, sometimes managers, they might just, because if all I know is to be a manager and I don't feel able to have those brave conversations or honest conversations, they're not brave, they're just honest, to say what you see. I could have said to that guy, yeah, just go and be a manager, and not giving a shit about what the impact was. But again, my values didn't allow that of me. So I think if you've got certain values which go against the grain of people development and people engagement, these are all buzzwords that float around out there at the minute, then really I don't think necessarily managing rafts of people is for you. I think there's other more suitable roles that you could find that would make you totally happy, play to your strengths and get you what you need. Now, I think there's an argument, the higher up the greasy pole you might get people who are meant to be more ruthless because they have to make people redundant, they have to cut costs, they have to do those things. But still, my argument is, if you care about people, you can do that in a humane way.
Sure.
And I think if you work in an organisation where people leave in that humane way, I think that says tons about your business and about you as a leadership team or you as a leader. Because I think you can help people to leave in an appropriate way that makes them feel personally intact, that doesn't make them feel broken. Because again, if you're going through things like redundancy, it's a hard enough thing to face without feeling it's down to you or someone didn't like you or be made to feel like you're totally rubbish. And I have seen that, and most people I speak to can instantly recount these managers who are like, yeah, I worked with somebody like that. They didn't care about me at all. It was all about them. They stole me work and they said it was theirs. It was all me. They didn't actually spend time with me. They were spending time with their managers trying to get on. And I just think, I think there's a lot of recruitment that needs to be unpicked for when you're recruiting managers, if you want to get the right ones for your organisation. Again, that depends on your culture. But going back to what I said earlier, Ian, there's those poor souls who've been plucked or promoted into leadership for all the right reasons, but haven't given that support, and they're the ones who, with a little bit of investment, can do great things in your business.
I'm sure there's a bunch out there for you to go at. I worked in a large engineering company with 500-600 people plus in it. Some great engineers in there who were, again, as you say, promoted into management. To be honest, sometimes it was quite embarrassing, trying to have a conversation with a manager who clearly was not a manager.
No.
And I visit a lot of them now as a business coach where I help companies grow. There's some great engineers, there's some great software developers.
Yeah.
But they're not commercially astute. They're not leaders,
No.
But they're just great at what they do and had a great idea. So I guess in your environment, is that what you do? You helping them become leaders and helping them polish them skills?
Yeah, and I've come up, and I know I said earlier, model schmodel, but it just seemed logical that people keep talking about models. So I came up with my own little model. It's that simple because I'm a simple soul. And
You don't have to wear a red handbag for it, do you?
You don't have to, but you can if you want to.
Helps.
You can if you want to. So it's called pre-leadership, and basically it's two elements plus a one. When you understand who you are, because that's what stops most people being brave and doing what they need to do. So when I talk about this difficult conversation, if you know who you are and what makes you tick, then things just become a whole lot easier because you use your values as your rule book when you don't know what to do and you're stuck.
Okay. Love that.
And then there's this ability to coach. And again, I don't know how you find it, Ian, going into engineering and be interested to know what they think about coaching. But certainly most businesses, you're reading about everyone needs to coach. And it's a big buzzword in organisations now. Everybody should do it. And everybody can do it. And I've got a different view on that. Not everybody can do it. Therefore, everybody shouldn't do it. And even the people who think they can do it can't often do it, if that makes sense. Because the investment on what coaching really is, because if it starts with you, and a lot of coaching is about, here's a particular model, a standard one would be, here's a grow model. Well, I think model schmodel, I think you know who you are inside, you're inquisitive, you want to find out other people's reality, so that's just the art of asking questions, and you use the facts, and that's basically the basis of this leadership model I've come up with. It's dead simple. So when you're not frightened, you ask good questions, you use the facts, you make a decision, and then you solve the problem or whatever the thing is that you didn't know what to do beforehand.
So your leadership coaching workshop, or whatever you want to term it as, how long does that take to turn that around?
Well, I've got a bit of a different model in my business as well. So I tend to do training last of all, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So how I operate is if you've got a bunch of people who lack a skill and they've never been taught the skill, then of course I would train them because that would be logical. You don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you don't know, so be taught the nuts and bolts of the skill. But once you've been taught the skill, I don't know about you, but over the years, I've attended, which I've now coined a phrase of lots of lovely days worth of training. So I've had lots of lovely, lovely days of training where I go on these lovely days, sometimes it's even been a lovely week, have a great time, meet great people, even have a few beers in the bar at night, depending on how long the course lasts. At the end, they all want to, the trainers want to know how well they've done, and I'm enthused, and I'm giving them 9s out of 10. If they're really, really good, I might give them a 10 out of 10. ultimately, I'm in a bubble though at that point. I'm in my lovely day of training, a lovely week of training. When I come back to the office with me pack of stuff and, high expectations of what I'm going to do, work gets back in the way it always did. And I haven't got the time to change. And actually, my boss isn't really talking about this training that I've done. No one's really mentioning it. And although I've got the best of intentions, the work's still getting in the way. And now it's a week down the line and something's cropped up that I think I might be able to use my lovely training for, but I'm a bit frightened because I'm not really sure how I should apply it in real life. So I don't do anything and I put the stuff in the drawer. And then 6 months has gone past and I've never used the stuff and no one's ever mentioned it again. And actually, I don't use it at all. So I've kind of turned my business model on its head and I'll say to businesses, what investment have you already had in terms of lovely days? And what did you hope you'd be seeing differently from that investment? And often, 99.9% of the time, the thing the business wanted to see isn't necessarily happening. So there's then no need to teach the person what to do again. What the need is to work one-on-one or coach that individual to say, right, let's get all your stuff out the drawer, let's blow the dust off, and let me and you explore what it is that's really stopped you from doing whatever it was that you were expected to be doing. What was it? And because I've been doing this for a couple of years, and like I say, I've been in leadership roles for over 20, the thing that stops everybody, first of all, is the story that you tell yourself. It's that whole, I'm not good enough, I'm frightened, what if it goes wrong? So that's why I always start with, who are you then? What do you need? What's your story? What are you about?
And I'm guessing this is pretty scalable, from FTSE 100 right down to owner managed.
So I deal all the way through from FTSE 100 right the way through to micro businesses. And interestingly enough, I've started to get a number of individuals started to contact me who want to be better themselves in their role. They're sick of worrying about getting it wrong, I guess. And they're contacting me as individuals to say, Sharon, can you help me? Which kind of breaks my heart in a way because those individuals are having to pay for that investment themselves. But I guess what's good about that for them is they get their confidence back and they're able just to go on and do what they need to do without, having those sleepless nights that you mentioned and having that can't switch off, feeling really stressed. Because, we're at work longer than we're with our families. Some of us are going to have to work. I know I'm in the UK, but right now my pension, if I want to draw a state pension's tracking at 67. I could be dead by then, long dead.
Right.
So, we're going to spend more and more time at work. So it's really important that you understand what makes you tick so you can get the best fit for you. And if that means that you check out and set up your own business, well, that's what you do. And I guess that's my story. That's why I've done what I've done, because I don't have any concern. I love my boss. My boss is great. Get on with her dead well, because it's me. So
I was wondering who this was.
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
Is that the one that lets you drink beer at work and then come home and try?
She's dead canny. She lets us do whatever she wants, as long as I get the work done, I must admit.
And you haven't got the Mohican now, no?
No, I haven't got the Mohican now. No, not now.
But you can be you. If you wanted it, you could have it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I'm totally out the box. There's no stopping us. Nobody can tell us what to wear. No one can tell us what to do or say. And if I don't get on, it's all my own doing.
Sure.
So I'm actually at the helm of my own destiny always. Now that's, don't get us wrong, it's scary. I don't have a regular salary anymore. I sometimes don't know where my next paycheck's coming from.
Yeah.
Because some of the bigger companies I'm working with, sometimes it can take months for those contracts to come to fruition.
Yeah.
But when they come, they're big chunky contracts and that's great. But, there's that peaks and troughs. But ultimately, I've got me back.
Yeah.
And money can't buy that for me. So I don't know how you are in the same sort of situation, but that's what I feel. That's what drives me on and spurs me on, to keep doing what I'm doing. Because the other thing is I've been able, when they talk about corporate social responsibility, when I was in my big business, I didn't really do a lot. I might go and dig a garden for a school or something once a year. But honestly, now I can do what I want to do, and because making a difference is like the big thing for me. I do so much for free. I mean, my other half goes crazy, but I'm very clear why I'm doing it, because I'm making a difference. That's why I'm doing it. So, I'm a mentor for Inspire. I'm actually on the Chartered Management Institute as a board member, which again is all, I do that for free. I do talks in schools. I've done talks for International Women's Day at a couple of the local universities. I'm helping individuals if they're really stuck and they just can't afford stuff. Now, I'm not a charity by any means, but again, because I know who I am, I'm able to check inside when somebody approaches me and think, well, shall I do that or shall I not? And I just think most times, yeah, I will. If I've got the time, why not? Because I think it's nice to be nice. And I love the fact that I can do that now and I can just be like the me that I want to be, as opposed to having to ask permission. Is it okay to do that?
Do you think that comes with age, Sharon, this sort of epiphany moment where you think, right, okay, I want to be me now. I want to do what my own fulfillment, what my own heart wants to do. Does that come at, 40, 30, 45, whatever? Do you have to have experience before you can do that?
I think personally for me, and, like I say, I'm nearer 50 now, scarily, than I am 40. For me, absolutely, yes. And I read a lot of books. I'm fascinated about this whole women in leadership or women in business and talking about not enough women in C-suite positions and all of that kind of stuff. But I have to say, I've met some brilliantly talented women who worked in big organizations who just don't want to play games anymore. And often, I can only talk from a woman's point of view here, but women have kids. They might want to go back into those roles and they're often told they can't. And I think rather than play games, and I'm not saying guys like playing games, I'm just saying I think guys tolerate the games more than women, in my opinion. So I think I've met a load of women who certainly in their late 30s, early 40s have just gone, you know what? I'm running as fast as I can away from that corporate life. And I'd rather knit cardigans for teddy bears and become, do something that I love and that makes me feel great than have all of this stuff going on that I just don't like and it's making me unhappy. So absolutely, I do think the whole age thing is really what's helped me, So it's got its downsides, but the upsides is it's about knowing who you are and just going, you know what, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to be me.
It's funny because it's getting to be a bit of a theme across the episodes now. What I worry about is managers not letting anyone listen to these podcasts anymore because everyone's quitting.
Well, the thing is though, but it's in companies' gift to change that, because
Yeah.
if they invest in the right leaders doing the right things at the right time, who actually want to empower and help their people just to do whatever they want to do. One of the greatest things I used to say to my people is, I wanted them to tell me if they were unhappy or they wanted to move on in a different role. And one of my philosophies has been for a long, long time now, help people to leave. Because if you help them to leave and get what they want, they'll give you more when they're there.
Sure.
So I think I've seen leaders who, you're frightened, the person's frightened to say, oh, I'm thinking I'm unhappy, or I'd like to go for that promotion, or I'd like to move on. And they just go into lockdown, where my philosophy was, look, just tell me what you want. And if I can help you, I will. And I don't hold any grudge about that. In fact, I'm delighted to help to be a stepping stone on your rung of your ladder to get where you want to be. I think if you invest in people and show them that you care as a manager, and I'm not talking about being a soft touch, I'm not talking about being your friend, I'm talking about being friendly, I'm talking about being professional, but really caring enough about that other person, which is the whole mindset of a coach, by the way, which is why I don't believe not everybody can and should coach. Then you can help your people and they'll thank you for it and they'll actually give you much more of their energy in that current role whilst you're helping them to leave. And I don't know why more leaders just don't do that. So I think if you get the right leaders doing the right things, then no one should be afraid of hearing stuff like this, because, it's just what happens. We all get older and we might decide, look, I've had enough of that big thing. I liked it. I really, and I loved what I did, but I've moved on and that's something else now for me to do.
Well, that's a great place to leave it. I'm looking at the clock again. I've done it again. I've rabbled for 40 minutes. What we're going to do here. So before you shoot off, your cat's wanting to see you anyway, by the way. I can hear
Can you hear the cat?
But before you go, what influences you? Okay, have you got any? I always ask for books and things like that, but someone like yourself, you must be influenced by someone. You're constantly reading, I imagine.
Yeah, well, the current thing that I'm reading, and I know it's a couple of years old now, is Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In.
Okay.
And what I like about, I haven't finished it yet, but what I'm liking about it is the whole, she's got facts in there about research that's been done about stuff that happens with women. Also something apparently I've just reading there the other day. McKinsey, there was a McKinsey study poll done in 2011 where men apparently are promoted on potential and women on past accomplishments.
Right. Wow.
And then there was another bit of research that she draws out of the book, which was there was somebody called Heidi who'd been a venture capitalist, had a really successful career, done really, really great things. And they showed it to two different sets of people. One where it was Heidi and one where they changed. It was still Heidi's accomplishments, but they changed it to a guy's name. Mm-hmm. And basically what they wanted to know was, what do you think of this person? So it was fascinating. When it was Heidi, people thought she was selfish. And when it was Howard, they thought he was likable.
What was that book again?
Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg.
I'll put a link up, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, what else do you want us to link to? Where else can we find you, Sharon?
Where else can you find me? Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, so you can find me on there, and you can find me at redhandbag.co.uk. I've also, for those, I'm not sexist, but it's just when I go back to the references of Star Wars, I tend to find that men are a bit like the droid scene, where these aren't the droids you're looking for. So men don't want to admit their problems. That I know that they have them, which is why suicide rate between 16 and 40 is the biggest risk of death for men, because they keep it all in. But women, when I tend to work with women more, only because women are totally disparaging and almost want to be sick all over us to tell us how rubbish they are. So I've also set up something called the Red Handbag Confidence Club on Facebook, more for individual women and more for those micro businesses who just want to it's a bit of a community support thing where I've got other women posting, but it's all about positivity, confidence building, and supporting each other to feel better about ourselves.
Brilliant. Well, I've got a Facebook plugin on the bottom of your page.
Okay.
And if you can leave a little link to that maybe, and some of the listeners might jump on.
Yeah, no problem, will do.
Excellent. And thanks for leaving with yet another Star Wars reference. What's going on?
I love Star Wars as well.
I think we better wrap it up now.
Okay, cheers, Ian.
Right, okay. Thanks for your time, Sharon. Sharon MacArthur there. The force is strong with that one. Did you agree with her thoughts on leadership? Let us know your feedback. We'll wrap it up there because I know it's been a long one. I'm Ian Farrer. This is The Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.